Do you ever wake up feeling like your tank is already on empty before the day has even begun? The demands of life press in from every side: work, family, health, finances, and you wonder how you will find the strength to make it through. You try to muster up your own energy, your own willpower, only to find yourself depleted and discouraged by noon. This feeling of inadequacy is a universal human experience. We are finite beings with limited strength, patience, and wisdom. Yet, we often try to navigate the complexities of our lives as if we are infinite, relying solely on our own capabilities to sustain us. But what if I told you that your feelings of weakness are not a sign of failure, but an invitation from God? What if your limitations were the very entry point for a power beyond your own to begin working in your life? This is the profound and life-altering secret to daily Christian living. The Apostle Paul, a man who endured unimaginable hardship, discovered this secret in the crucible of his own suffering. He pleaded with God to remove a thorn in the flesh, a persistent and painful trial. God's answer was not what Paul expected, but it was exactly what he and we need to hear every single day. This divine response is a promise that meets us not in our strength, but in our struggle. It is the fuel for the soul that feels it can't go on another step. It is God's personal assurance to you in this very moment. And he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." 2 Corinthians 12:9. Let us first absorb the sheer magnitude of God's declaration. My grace is sufficient for you. This is not a one-time deposit made at the moment of salvation. This is a continuous, moment-by-moment, all-encompassing supply of divine assistance for the believer. The word sufficient means it is exactly enough for whatever you are facing right now. It is the patience you need with your children, the wisdom for that crucial business decision, and the endurance to face a chronic illness. God does not give us grace for tomorrow today. He provides a fresh supply for this very moment. Next, God reveals a stunning paradox. For my strength is made perfect in weakness. In our world, strength is perfected through more strength, more training, more effort, more self-reliance. But in God's kingdom, His divine power is most perfectly and brilliantly displayed when our human strength has run out. Your weakness is not an obstacle to God's power. It is the very stage upon which His power performs. When you are at the end of your rope, you have created the perfect space for God to show up and do what only He can do. It is in admitting, "I can't," that we open the door for Him to say, "I can." This understanding led the Apostle Paul to a radical conclusion. He says, "Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities." This is completely countercultural. Who boasts in their weaknesses, their limitations, their struggles? Paul understood that his weaknesses were not a source of shame, but a showcase for God's glory. He wasn't celebrating his flaws, but he was celebrating the God who was so powerful that he could work through them. He gladly acknowledged his limitations so that something far greater could be seen in his life. And what was that greater thing? The verse concludes that the power of Christ may rest upon me. The word for rest here means to dwell, like a tent. Paul was boasting in his weaknesses so that the very power of the risen Christ would set up camp and live within his daily experience. This is the divine exchange offered to every believer each morning. We give him our exhaustion, and he gives us his energy. We give him our confusion, and he gives us his clarity. We give him our weakness, and he gives us his inexhaustible strength. So today, stop striving in your own power. Acknowledge the areas where you feel weak, inadequate, and overwhelmed. Do not see them as failures, but as docking stations for the grace and power of Jesus Christ. Let go of the pride that says, "I can do it myself," and embrace the humble dependence that says, "Lord, I cannot do this without you." It is in that honest cry for help that His grace will flood your soul. His strength will become your strength, and you will navigate this day not by your power, but by His. You have a fresh, sufficient supply of His grace available to you right now. It is custom-made for the challenges you are facing at this very moment. Embrace your need, and in doing so, you will experience the all-powerful presence of Christ resting upon you.